And it just got momentum now. And I think paired with economic instability and whatnot, I think it just created some angst. But people will get over that. And businesses need people to be AI savvy. And somebody said to me the other day, which really resonated with me, they said, the more advanced the AI is businesses use, the more they need a human touch actually to manage that.
Exactly.
And as soon as people realize that, including leaders, I think that hopefully will make a positive difference.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Smithfield Smackdown podcast. The Smithfield Smackdown podcast is created by Smithfield Search, an executive search business that explores the real opportunities and challenges facing leaders in tech, creative agencies, and investor-backed businesses today through thoughtful conversations with founders, creative leads, investors, executives. We dig into the really important questions around leadership, culture, hiring, and innovation, always with a focus on understanding the issues and finding practical solutions. We create a safe space for honest dialogue to help leaders navigate the complexities of leadership in a modern world, balancing creative technology and growth. Smithfield Smackdown offers insights and perspectives that inspire positive change and smarter leadership. Today, we have Ayse Bouvet with us. Ayse has very kindly offered to join us, and I'm really excited about today's Smackdown. But before we go into that, Ayse, I wondered if you would introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about your journey through leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to be here, Bea. As Bea mentioned, I'm Ayse, and I'm through and through a people or HR professional, whichever way you prefer, and always worked in high growth, ambitious, and ever-changing tech organizations, from the large global giants such as Expedia to early scale-ups and maturing scale-ups. And my leadership journey in high growth businesses always meant building new capabilities, building new teams, building new functions, and doing that whilst I went through first-time experiences was when my team went through first-time experiences too. And I guess doing that in a way that the team felt safe, the team could grow. Sometimes people outgrew me as well. This happens, which was probably quite hard at moments. And and really try to grow as the business grows and evolves, and really stay at cutting edge, as well as making sure my team does the same. So I think that's probably really where my sweet spot is and what I always enjoyed doing as a leader.
Thank you for that introduction. Shall we crack on with the Smackdown? Tell us a little bit about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely, Bea. So I think my Smackdown, if you wish, is about job hugging. Job hugging is essentially when people stay in their roles, although they not necessarily want to because they think they have no better choice. I've seen a real trend of job hugging, and there's data suggesting similar, or market research suggesting a similar trend, where leaders just stay put at the moment, and it just might not be necessarily the best thing for them or the business they're in. So that's my Smackdown, if you wish, Bea.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because you really didn't have to explain what it means, because I find it so evocative and I've used that term so much since we've talked. So, but thank you for explaining it all the same. And let's crack on. Let's talk a little bit about what the risks of job hugging are at the moment. Because I think we know in this tough market, and we can all see why it's happening, but what are the real risks for people?
Yeah. So I think specifically for leaders, the key risk is that there has been the highest turnover among CEOs in 25. Or a record high, not the highest, a record high. And some sources say since 22, some sources say since 2023. But essentially, since over 20 years, there has been the highest turnover among CEOs. And the reasons why there has been such a high turnover, I mean, it has various different dimensions. But one is that boards and shareholders, investors, however you want to, whoever is in charge, felt either the CEOs were not ready for the Gen AI transformation, or they were not ready for the economic and general market situation. And some of it, of course, is just natural evolution. And where I'm going with this is that when there are new CEOs on board and they are coming in to drive change, that typically means change for leadership as well. And I'm worried at the moment a
So
little
it
bit of the
trickles
risk.
down, doesn't it?
It does trickle down. It has a ripple effect. And I think there's a risk that some leaders are sleepwalking into this a little bit by hugging their job and putting their head down and not taking a huge amount of risk. And I think building on that is what job hugging does and can cause for leaders is that they just stay in their role for too long. We all have a little bit of a life expectancy in our role. And if we stay too long, we lose the edge. Our team can lose the edge a little bit. And some complacency really can kick in
Mm.
as we wait for the market to become better or for a new exciting opportunity to arise. So basically, it doesn't get the best out of leaders, I think,
Yeah.
which can put them even more at risk. So
Mm.
I think these are, from my perspective, the top three risks I see.
Sure. And that's really apparent, isn't it? You talk to businesses and there's some quite clear data suggesting that people just haven't seen the attrition that they would normally see at that lower level.
I looked at market data and I tried to, find like a good source because there's I think it was Corn Ferry who said voluntary attrition has been 2% last year, but that was mainly in the US. Mercer said around 13%. But generally, a long story short, I think for most businesses, attrition has declined over the last 12
Yeah.
months. And it can give a little bit of a false sense of things are healthy, but engagement surveys say something different. And attrition can be a good thing for people as well as for the business. So
Yeah.
100%
Absolutely.
be. I think that's a really, really valid
Yeah.
point. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I wanted to save the best for last, but newsflash, we are going to cover that in a separate pod, aren't we?
Yes,
About what that means for businesses if you have
yes.
people that are job hugging in your business. But for the leader who is,
Mm,
for all of the reasons we discussed, anxious about moving on and making that leap, what um what can they do? What can they actually do while they're in a post? Can you offer them some sort of advice? If somebody is job
mm,
hugging, what could they do to kind of self-check themselves, I
yeah.
suppose?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I always speak to leaders almost like thinking about four buckets, if you wish. So sometimes leaders stay because they drive big change, big innovation, and they're still learning as they go. And that's probably a right and good reason to stay. Then I speak to leaders who are um, I call them strategic raters. So they work towards a milestone and they want to hold off. And that could be for leaders very often also financial, right? Because like their comp package typically is tied to their tenure. And sometimes they're rating a big payout. And all that good jazz. Then you have people who are in post but are active on the market and realize it just takes longer in this current
Yeah.
market than usually. And then you have the job huggers, and the job huggers are really the ones who are putting their head down and just don't take any risks. And when I speak with leaders about it, they're not necessarily self-identify, but then when we talk about the warning signs, and for me, the top three warning signs are: one is almost over delivery and turning a little bit into a disempowered leader in the sense that they say yes out of fear and go
Mm.
against their conviction and know they're not on the bus anymore, but kind of are on the bus.
So visibly they're on the bus, but really they're ticking boxes behind scenes.
I agree, exactly. Then I see leaders who basically stole their ambition. So they don't have they don't have the challenging out of the comfort zone career conversations anymore, and just wait and see. And then I think there are like the warning signs where it's almost like false, um, what or maybe really unintended stagnation in the sense that they wait and hope for the market to get better. And that's quite passive in a way. But
Yes.
these are for me like the warning signs I see when people are job hugging. And very often the job huggers can resonate at least with one of the three, if
Mm.
not more.
Yeah. Well, there's a
Yeah.
kind of element of light dimming somewhere, isn't there? Somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And I think it might, we are going to talk about it because it must be awful for businesses because it means that they can't achieve their best while the people aren't motivated to create new things, to innovate, to work. So I'm glad
For
we're
sure.
discussing that in a different pod. But you've given us a checklist so we can be quite honest
Hmm.
with ourselves about, hold on, is that me? And if it is me, to what degree, how dim are my lights getting, essentially?
Yeah.
But, can we circle back a little bit to how people can deal with that in a more positive way, and
Yeah.
what they can do while they're in the seat?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think my first general advice is don't wait for the shove, right?
Don't
Like
wait for the shove.
be
Yeah.
Shove, yeah, sorry, I'm poor German pronunciation B. But what I mean by that is like don't wait for until the decision is made for you, right? Because if turnover is low, like and we leaders very often have done it themselves, they're forced to turnover.
Mm,
And that can be really unsettling. And be aware that it in this market it just takes longer. So it might take a year for leaders
yeah,
to find and land a new internal, by the way, or external roles. So or challenge. So don't wait and see, but
yeah.
take control.
No
Um,
plan isn't a plan.
that's it exactly. And then for me, the second thing is, which I would say to everyone, particularly in the Gen AI era, is make sure your skills and experiences you future proof them, not just to stay marketable, but typically we don't have a choice anymore but to grow and evolve as leaders. And Gen AI is really throwing some curveballs, right? I mean, I speak to
Yeah.
leaders who have digital FTEs, like how to manage that, and that
Mm,
sort of stuff. So I think that's really important. And then the big one, I'm not sure many leaders realize, is the leadership and executive market is very hidden. So
yeah.
again, different statistics, but some say 1 in 2 roles is never advertised. One say 70% of roles are never advertised. So you don't know what's really out there, and your network is critical.
Yeah.
And speaking to people like yourselves, to just keeping the edge, like what language even to use in the market. And again, it's very different even to a year ago how to best position yourself as a
Mm,
leader, and not lose that edge, and equally be clear around where you fit in and how you caliber against the market, and therefore how do you future proof your skills and experiences. I think it's really important.
yeah.
Yeah, I think these are probably my top
Yeah.
pieces of advice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm always talking about a growth mindset. Actually, I
Mm,
think that's really important because actually not doing anything right now doesn't make you better. And you need to be better
no.
because the landscape is changing so much. I wanted to sidetrack a little bit on something actually. I was at
Mm,
a Beamer event this week and they were talking
yeah.
about how are we keeping our skills fresh for this
Mm,
landscape. And one of the businesses that was talking actually was talking about only 6% of people feel supported. Like everybody's expectations are, you've got to learn more about AI. You've got to have be more fluent. But actually, that's not
yeah.
necessarily being supported by training or
No.
encouragement. A lot of people are just kind of being asked to get on with it. And there's a little bit for me where I think, redesigning workflows is just part of my day-to-day job now.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what do you think about that? 6% of people, only 6% of people feel supported on that learning journey. One. And then I've got
Yeah.
another stat for you, which I love, but terrifies me, which is something like only 26%. It was in the 20s. It was by Erica Farmer. Actually, I often quote her. She's amazing. Only 26% of women are leaning into that AI adoption and training. And so I'm
Wow.
always trying, and that these gains that we've made in business are going to
Uh,
start to creep back. And so I'm
yeah.
encouraging women, particularly, to
Yeah.
really lean into that growth
Ah,
mindset.
these are really good stats. So on the 6%, that's a shocking percentage, but it's not hugely surprising, I must say, because there are many businesses, and I need to dig out my stats, but I think it was like over 60%. They don't really invest in AI
Mm.
skill building. And that by skill building, I don't mean send people to like a 1 hour webinar workshop or a day or whatever it might be and then think they can run with it. Particularly for leaders, like that's now a shift, right? They have more distributed team with AI. They need to make decisions how AI first, how AI enabled their team, their work, and the team needs to be, and how to take people on a journey, which is basically means constant unpredictable change because there's so many things which
Yeah.
are unknown still when it comes to Gen AI. And whilst also dealing with the uncertainty what it means for themselves and their own roles, because even some quite digitally minded leaders I worked with and I met, they're anxious about it, right?
Mm.
And finding the right way of being humble and open about it, but equally seeing the art of the possible, and realizing Gen AI is a little bit like the internet. Like you need to be able to use it. You need to be able to use it well. And so does your team, because otherwise you're not set up for success. You're basically,
Yes.
hitting a ceiling, and your business does, very quickly. So yeah, so I think businesses need to think a little bit more. And I always talk about, the learning triangle. People learn 10% through formal training, 20% through others, 70% on the job. And it's a journey.
Yes.
And thinking about skill building, and it's not, of course, as formulaic, is I think quite important also for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, as well as your teams. And then women not leaning in. Gosh, I think there's still a little bit the hesitation or the gender stereotypes that the technical work sits with men, because let's face it, like majority of technical leaders are male, um, and
Big
not
shout out to
necessarily.
a group called Women Love AI that do lots of workshops and events, actually.
Yeah,
They're really
yeah, yeah,
promoting
yeah,
women
and women
leaning
can do
in.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel quite hopeful in many ways about this year because I
Yeah.
don't think that the stat about 6% not feeling supported is here to stay. I really
No.
hope that we could move the dial on that this year and that lots of businesses have just had so many challenges that actually getting their ducks lined up to what do we teach? What technology do we adopt?
Yes.
How do we roll it out? Who's driving it? Who's on the bus? All of the
Yes.
things there, those,
Yes.
I think a lot of that will come good this year. And then I think the good stuff, really good stuff is on the other side, right? That's when the innovation, collaboration, starts to reappear and hopefully will result in a stronger economy and marketplace.
I hope you're right, B. I really hope you're right. And I think, Gen AI is so hyped up at the moment as well, because let's face it, it's been around since years and years and years and years and years. And it just got momentum now. And I think paired with economic instability and whatnot, I think it just created some angst. But people will get over that. And businesses need people to be AI savvy. And somebody said to me the other day, which really resonated with me, they said, the more advanced the AI is businesses use, the more they need a human touch actually to manage
100%
that.
agree with that.
Um, and as soon as people realize that, including leaders, I think that hopefully will make a
Yes.
positive difference.
Well, that was a big theme at Web Summit, actually, that humans are definitely back in fashion. We can't do
Yeah,
everything using the bots, and that gives me huge comfort as a
yeah,
human. I want to have purpose
yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
But yeah, that's super interesting, and lots for people to
Mm,
take away there on, kind of self-reflection and thinking really about what does their career look like and what can they do to kind of push things along and do their bit, I suppose.
yeah,
So thank
yeah.
you for sharing your time with me. I'm looking forward to our follow-up chat when we talk about what the
Mm,
impact of this is on business, because I think there's another story there, isn't there, for people, and also how they support the workforce and encourage and motivate. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I look forward to a follow-up.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Bea.